Do you ever feel irritated? Anybody? Ah, good. I'm not the only one. And when you do feel irritated, do you ever think, this is an afflicted state of mind that has arisen due to numerous causes and conditions, mostly within myself? At the very root is ignorance that doesn't see things as they are, but thinks everything is inherently, independently existing, when in fact nothing exists that way. But there is this false appearance, and based on that, and believing in that, my mind reacts to things that I encounter. This is good, this is bad, I like this, I don't like that, this is good for me, this is harmful for me, and so on. And then attachment and aversion arise. And then the mind starts thinking of ways of changing what's out there to make sure I only have pleasant experiences and never anything unpleasant. But if I try to do that, if I try to fix the external world, I'm going down the wrong road. Even though I might be able to change some things out there, I can never change everything. So I'll just end up getting frustrated, more angry, more irritated. But what I can do is change my own mind. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my mind instead of trying to fix this external situation. So do you ever think like that when you feel irritated? Or do you think, that person, that creature, that sound, or whatever it is so irritating. It's driving me crazy. I can't think straight. I can't meditate. I can't study. It's interfering with my Dharma practice. So I have to do something about it. I have to make it stop. And then you go down that road, thinking up schemes of how to stop it, and sometimes even acting these out. Does anyone ever do that? Or am I the only one? Okay, true confessions. So intellectually, I know that the first way of dealing with irritation is the better one. It's in accordance with the Dharma, but it's also just more effective. It works better, and it feels right. You end up feeling you did the right thing instead of feeling ashamed of yourself. But when it comes to real life situations, my mind still reacts in the latter way. So just to give an example, it happened recently, a few months ago, when the turkeys went into mating mode. And the males were making that gobble gobble noise, and the females sounded like whimpering puppies. And there were a whole bunch of them hanging out in my backyard, sleeping in the big trees back there, gobbling and whimpering in the early morning and the late evening. Thankfully, not during the day. They disappeared up into the forest. But when it first started happening, I found it really irritating. And instead of seeing it as a problem in my mind that I had to deal with, my mind was thinking, oh, they are so irritating. Why can't they go somewhere else? There are hundreds of trees in this forest. Why do they have to pick those trees right outside my house? Can't they go somewhere else? And a few times I actually did try to sabotage them. So one time I was out there and I saw a whole bunch of them coming down the driveway towards the parking lot. And I thought, they're probably heading for those trees. And I was outside anyway, so I just started walking in their direction. Not in an aggressive or threatening way. I was just like taking a walk, but heading in their direction. And in my mind, I thought, they're probably going to run away, because that's what they do. They seem to think we are huge monsters, and they don't want to be anywhere near us. So sure enough, they did run back up the driveway, but they were smarter than I thought. They ran up the driveway and then turned left at the willow tree, and they came around Ananda, and they went down through the gully. So they ended up in those trees again. And I felt quite humiliated. I mean, turkeys are supposed to be dumb. So humiliated and somewhat ashamed of myself that I even tried to sabotage them. I finally accepted this, this isn't working, and I do have to work on my mind. And it wasn't that difficult because, after all, what they were doing was relatively harmless, not like terrorists or corrupt politicians. And they were not making this noise deliberately to annoy me. I was thinking they just have that kind of body as a result of their karma and afflictions. And it's that time of year when the hormones are getting activated and they just don't know any other way to behave. Just, you know. Also, it's impermanent. It only happens at certain times of the day and certain months of the year. The last few weeks have been blissfully quiet. But it'll happen again next spring. And also, I thought that this problem is nothing compared to what some people have to live with. Some people who live in cities and they have nonstop traffic and sirens and blaring music from their neighbors or restaurants, cafes, loud conversations next door or outside their windows. I mean, if I can't put up with this little bit of noise, how would I manage in those situations? And loving kindness is always helpful. Just thinking of them as sentient beings who, just like me, want to be happy and don't want to suffer. And that's why they're behaving that way. It's just an attempt to satisfy their needs, their wishes for happiness. And if I was a Buddha or a Bodhisattva, I wouldn't feel the slightest irritation. I would feel nothing but loving kindness and compassion for them, seeing them like my precious children who I just want to benefit in every way possible. So I tried to imagine that state of mind. If I was a Buddha, how would I see them? It does help, even though I'm not there yet. So those are some of the things that I did and managed to overcome my irritation and my attempts to sabotage them. I only did that once or twice. But I think probably most of our irritation is directed towards other people rather than animals or insects. And when it comes to people, there's one method that I find helpful, and that is I call it the mirror method. The idea is that what we see in other people that we don't like and that we find irritating may be something we have in ourselves, some aspect of our own behavior and our qualities, our characteristics, and so on. So to give an example, some years ago, I noticed that I get irritated with people who talk a lot. Some people, they just go on and on and on incessantly, every chance they have to talk. And I would find that really irritating. So I finally got around to asking myself, is this something I have in myself? And at first, I thought, no, I'm not a talkative person. I'm actually quiet, relatively. And then I thought, but what about my mind? My mind talks incessantly. It's always chatting, like Venerable Children was talking about the other day, namtok, what they call namtok in Tibetan, just constantly making comments about everyone and everything and telling stories about this and that, even when nobody's listening. So I had to accept, this is something my mind does, even if it doesn't come out through my mouth. And that was quite humbling. And I thought, well, how can I be critical and annoyed at people when they are chatting, when my own mind is doing just that? So that's just an example. But whenever I do this, whenever I try to see in myself something I dislike in another person, I usually find it there somewhere in myself. And when you do this, then the solution is not to then be annoyed at yourself and beat yourself up. Instead, it's to have, or try to have, it takes time to do this, but to have a kind and patient acceptance of yourself the way you are. And from the Buddhist point of view, we would think, well, we're not Buddhas, we're not enlightened beings, we're not perfect. We're just ordinary beings, and we still have a lot of afflictions and karma and habitual tendencies we carry from past lives, plus lots of experiences we've had in this life that have shaped our personality. So it's only natural that there are imperfections, annoying habits, and we don't have complete control over our mind and our behavior. Of course, we can change slowly by being mindful and recognizing our mistakes as mistakes and working on changing them. But we need to do that with an attitude of kindness and patience rather than, anger and beating ourselves up, similar to the way we would teach a child or train a puppy. So, this way of checking if we have within ourselves what we don't like in the other person helps us to understand ourselves better, see something in ourselves we may have been blind to before. And it's also a way to then work on having more kindness and acceptance towards ourselves. And then the benefit is that if we can have more kindness and acceptance of ourselves that way, then we can have more tolerance and patience and kindness towards other people when we notice their irritating behavior. So it's a really helpful way of overcoming irritation and anger. So the next time you feel irritated, try to remember some of these points. Check to see if the problem is really out there or in here. Although I think in some cases, you might decide that you will try to change what's going on out there. For example, if someone is playing music really loud or talking really loud and you're trying to meditate or study, you might ask the person in a friendly way if they might turn it down or use earphones, and sometimes that works. But that's not always possible. We can't always change what's going on out there, or even if we try, it doesn't work. So then you can check, okay, can I work on my own way of thinking and seeing that person or that object that enables me to not feel irritated? And there are different ways we can do that. And it's worth a try. And also try this mirror method. So I find it really helpful myself. Like I said, it helps me understand myself better, see things in myself, have more kindness and acceptance towards myself, and then it helps to have more kindness and acceptance towards others. So it's a real helpful antidote to irritation and anger. Thank you.